Okay, everybody, in this module and on this worksheet, we're going to be looking at compound interest, which, as I said in the last module, is a little bit more complicated than the simple interest, but we're going to work on some things together. There's lots of information in your module, and I've linked at least one more video to kind of help you understand this. And the first thing we're going to look at is the compound growth inflation table, this table here at the top of my worksheet. And this is a table that lenders use to help them figure out what the compound amount is that they need to use in figuring interest. And anytime we do it, we're going to use a table. I'm not going to ask you to figure these little tiny figures, I promise. So the table is very easy to use. The first question is an investor deposits $900 at 5% interest for 10 periods. Find the compound amount is the first thing we need to do. Now this says years, but it's periods is what we're using this table for. Okay, this is just to show you how it would work. All you need to do is find the place where 10 intersects with 5. And you see that your compound amount is 1.629, okay? So the total compound interest earned, you have 1.629, and that is the compound interest on $1, okay? But we have $900. But all we have to do to find the compound interest, find the compound amount, is multiply those two together, and we have 1.629 times 900, and we get $1,466.10, okay? This is the total amount. Now, how we find the compound interest is we take the compounded amount, which is this, and we subtract the principal, and we get the interest, which is $566.10, okay? Now, if we move on to the next one, we have $2,000 is invested at 12% annual interest compounded quarterly for 6 years. The first thing we need to calculate is the interest rate per period. Okay, we know we're starting with an interest rate of 12% a year. And we see that it is compounded quarterly, which means what? 4 times. So all we're going to do is divide our 4% by the 4 quarters and get 3%. The interest rate per period is 3%, okay? And now we need to know the total number of compounding periods. Well, we know we have 6 years, okay? And we know we have 4 times a year. So the total number of compounding periods is 24. Now we're going to go to our table and find the compound amount using our table. So let's backtrack. So we have 24 periods at 3%. So our compounding amount is 2.033, okay? And now we need to find the compound interest earned, okay? So we take, how many dollars do we have? We have $2,000. And we take the compound amount per dollar and multiply that out. So if I go to my calculator, I have $2,000 times 2.033, and we get $4,066. That is the total compounded amount. Don't confuse yourself. That's not the interest, okay? So if we do 4,066 and we subtract $2,000, then we see that we actually had more interest, which you will see sometimes if you don't have a good rate, than we had principal, okay? And this may also be complicated because this period in our table is based on years, but I don't want to confuse you by bringing that in. This is how you would factor it, okay? And you do need to watch. This is a lesson. If you're getting out a loan, pay attention to those interest rates, because if they're high, you can end up paying back more than double and beyond on some items. Okay, now we're going to create a table factor beyond the table. And you have instructions for this in your module, but I'm going to walk you through an example. If we go back to our table, it says, see, this says 32 periods, 3% for 32 periods. But if we go back to our table, it ends at 30, okay? So we're like, okay, I don't know what to do here. What you do is get as close to half of this as you can, which in this case you can get exactly half. And you can find 16 at 3% and see that it's 1.605. And so what we are going to do is multiply half of it by itself. Okay? We half this, or come as close as we can to halving it. We find the rate, the factor at that percent for half of it, and then we just multiply it times itself, and 1.605 times 1.605 is equal to 2.576. And there's more information again about that in your module, but that is how you would determine if you have a factor, if you have pay periods that go beyond what your table offers you. Okay, we've got one more we're going to look at together. This is the annual percentage yield. We have a $5,000 investment that grows to $5,460 in 1 year. Now, the annual percentage yield, the APY, is the actual rate that you effectively earn in 1 year, taking compounding into account, okay? So what you do is the APY formula is equal to total compound interest that is earned in 1 year divided by the principal. Okay? So the first thing you need to do is find the total compound interest earned in 1 year. And you see, if you subtract 5,000 from 5,460, the total compound interest earned in a year is $460. And your principal, remember, is always going to be the amount you borrow. This is the amount you start with, okay? So we're dividing 460 by 5,000, and we see that comes out to 0.092. And if we want to calculate that into a percentage, we move the decimal to the right 2 times, and we have 9.2% is our APY. Okay, guys, I know there's a lot to that. If you get confused, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and be sure to look and carefully consider all the items in your module.